Thank you so much for having this interview today.
My pleasure.
Uh, so, what is your new book?
My book is titled Grimoire, and it is a book of 64 poems, which are divided into 8 different sections. It's set up in the form of a book of magic, which is basically what a grimoire is. And the poetry is all about self-discovery. It is a compilation of my last 3 chapbooks, And the Widow Smiled, Art Therapy 101, and Seance with some bonus material. Even though these 3 chapbooks are incorporated in this particular volume, it's a completely different adventure altogether.
So, grimoire refers to magic.
Yes.
Is magic a very large part of your poetry?
Lately it has been. Lately it definitely has been, and magic, with a K, has been a main theme in my writing for the past few years.
Do you have magic in your life?
I do consider myself a wizard. In fact, my nickname is the Wizard of Willow, mainly because I do a lot of green magic in the woods in Willowbrook Park.
So, how did that come to be?
I think it was something that I had always been interested in. I had been a tarot card reader. I'm a Reiki master. And then all of a sudden I started keeping a book of shadows. And in this book of shadows, I would keep all of my spiritual discoveries, different elements of my identity, some poetry every so often, some short form. And that's when I decided to learn a little bit more about certain rituals. I decided to expand more on my knowledge base of Judaism, specifically Kabbalah, and the rest is history. It's just been a very main focus of my life. It's also been a way of recovering from some of the trauma that I've experienced in life. So magic is often said to be the last resort of the downtrodden. I have been that downtrodden person, and the rest is history.
You have been that downtrodden person, so you are not that downtrodden person anymore.
In most cases, I am not.
So, how did you get past that?
I basically had to, well, through therapy, I've been able to get past a lot of things that are related to my mental health. I am someone with bipolar disorder and PTSD, so getting through these things are not always the easiest things to get through, but ultimately I have had to rely on my poetry. I have had to rely on close friends, and without a doubt I got through it. I got through most of it. I still live with these issues, as is the case with PTSD in general, but I have a greater sense of coping with it.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. I think a lot of people watching this probably experience a lot of issues. Possibly some have PTSD. It's a very rough world we're living in.
It really is.
A very unforgiving world very often. So you said Judaism is involved. Is it involved in your poetry?
It is definitely involved in my poetry, and it's definitely involved in grimoire. In a lot of cases, I have relied on the occult and Kabbalah to write many of the poems that I've written. I've talked a little bit about rituals. I've made up my own incantations, and there's a little something for everybody. One chapter that people often have a hard time getting through is the demonology chapter, which deals with some of my personal demons with drugs and alcohol, as well as issues with my mental health, issues with depression.
So there's a lot of depression out there. I don't know anyone who hasn't had a bout of it every once in a while. But how does your poetry help you get through all of this?
I feel like in a lot of ways, if I write it into existence or put it in a poem, I'm basically exercising a demon.
If you say it, it helps, and that's poetry is your way of saying what it is?
Exactly. I have gotten a lot of hurt feelings out through poetry, and that's something that's not going to stop anytime soon.
This has been part one of our interview with Jacob R. Moses. Stay tuned for part two, which will follow shortly.